Now we'll be seeing about pre-malignant lesions and conditions. Now it has been retermed as oral potentially malignant disorders. So what is a pre-malignant lesion? As the name suggests, pre-malignant. It means something which is prior to malignant. So when do you call a lesion as pre-malignant? Means when there is a morphological alteration which is already apparent in the tissue. The change have occurred. So whenever you find a morphologically altered tissue in which the cancer is more likely to occur than in its normal counterpart, the change have occurred and there is increased chance of getting a cancer. That is your pre-malignant lesion. What is a pre-malignant condition? It is a generalized state. There is no actual changes there, but it is a generalized state associated with significantly increased risk of cancer. So earlier terminologies used were pre-malignant lesion and pre-malignant condition. Both of them prior to malignancy. Okay. But now we have only potentially malignant disorder. So what it is? It is a lesion or a disease or a condition which is associated with greater than normal risk of developing malignancy. So now we no longer use the term pre-malignant lesion or pre-malignant condition, but still you will be asked in your viva, so you please be familiar with your definitions. Pre-malignant lesion is morphologically altered tissue in which cancer is more likely to occur than in its apparently normal counterpart. What is a pre-malignant condition? It is a generalized state associated with significantly increased risk of cancer. The current terminology, potentially malignant disorder, is a lesion, disease, or a condition associated with greater than normal risk of developing malignancy. So, first and foremost, we'll be seeing about leukoplakia. Leuko in itself means white. Plakia means it is a patch. So, whenever you find a white patch in the oral cavity, you think in terms of leukoplakia. Okay, but you have to understand it is strictly a clinical one. Just the white appearance of a patch in the on a oral cavity, we call them as leukoplakia. You can never ever give a histological diagnosis as leukoplakia. Please remember that. Okay, most often you will be asked in your viva also. So leukoplakia represents a white patch or a plaque that cannot be characterized clinically or pathologically as any other disease. You are able to see a white patch, but you are not able to attribute why that white patch is there. You are not able to associate it with any other condition. Then you call it as leukoplakia. So some leukoplakia can change into malignancy. So the leukoplakia is more commonly seen in males. Okay, and this is the most common oral precancerous lesion, and it represents almost 85% of such lesions. So you understand why we need to be very careful with any leukoplakic condition, right? Because there is an increased chance of them turning into a malignancy. So what is the most common cause of leukoplakia? The tobacco smoking takes the first place. Okay, so more than 80% of patients will be smokers. And alcohol, do they have any effect? Alcohol does not directly cause any leukoplakic changes, but it has been found to be a synergistic factor. It means it will potentiate the process. Okay, the smoking is a prime culprit, but the alcohol will act as a potentiating factor. So that is a synergistic effect with tobacco. So ultraviolet radiation is another causative factor for leukopenia of lower lip. Mostly vermilion border of lip will be involved there. And some microorganisms like Candida albicans etc. have been associated. And clinical features, how it appears, usually for more than 40 years, middle-aged people are commonly affected. Buccal mucosa, lips, vermilion, gingiva, sometimes you can see it on the tongue, flora of the mouth, anywhere in the oral cavity, leukoplakia can be seen. Early leukoplakia, how it will be? It will be very flat or it will be slightly elevated. It can be a gray or a white block. Sometimes it will be translucent or fissured or wrinkled. The clinical appearance might vary. Okay. So how are they generally? They are usually soft and the borders are well demarcated. Okay. With a sharply demarcated borders. Again the leukoplakia can be homogeneous. Homogeneous means what? It will be even in appearance, or it can be granular or nodular leukoplakia. Depending on the way it is present, we categorize them further. So here we see a thick homogeneous leukoplakia. So sometimes what happens, Warty projections will be present. That case we call it as vericiform or verrucous leukoplakia. A special high risk form of leukoplakia is proliferative verrucous leukoplakia. So where you will be able to see multiple slowly spreading keratotic plaques, and there will be many rough surface projections will be present. Okay. So here is a picture of your proliferative verrucous leukoplakia, maybe uh, on the buccal mucosa you can see. So it is unusual among the leukoplakic variants, and they have a strong female predilection. Earlier I told you leukoplakia has a strong male predilection, but here we find a strong female predilection and minimal association with the tobacco usage. Okay, so in what way it differs from leukoplakia you have to understand. Some lesions you will be able to appreciate redness also, so it can even be whenever there is a mix of red and white lesion, you call it as erythroleukoplakia or speckled leukoplakia. So some of the important conditions which you have to keep in your mind during your differential diagnosis is your lichen planus, lichenoid reaction, candidiasis, or frictional keratosis. I told you if you cannot attribute that white lesion to any other cause, only then you will be terming it as leukoplakia, right? So lichen planus histopathological diagnosis will help you. Your lichenoid reaction, again you have to find some etiology associated with it, some restoration or something will be there in association, then remove it and see for its if it resolves. Candidiasis, you can anytime demonstrate the candidal hyphae and yeast forms, and then your frictional keratosis. You have to check whether it is in association with some um, tooth. So how are they generally staged? So four stages are there, which is L1 PO, L2 PO, L3 PO, or L1 L2 P1 is your stage 3, and L3 P1 will be your stage 4. So histopathology, you'll be able to appreciate hyperkeratosis. It is because of this the lesion is appearing white. There will be excessive hyperkeratosis will be there, and then there can be increase in thickness of spinous layer. So whenever you find an increased thickness of spinous layer, you call it as acanthosis. This increased thickness of surface keratinized layer, no, that will mask your underlying connective tissue, and that's the reason why your lesion is appearing very white. And the keratinization could be a parakeratin or orthokeratin, or it could be both. So sometimes we will be able to appreciate chronic inflammatory cells. Dysplasia or carcinoma is found only in about 5% to 25% of oral leukopenias. So here it's a picture of mild epithelial dysplasia. We can appreciate how the changes are confined to the basal and parabasal layers. See, only the superficial layers are normal. Only the basal layer, you can see hyperchromatic nuclei. Okay, increased hyperplasia is present, but the changes are confined only to the basal third. So moderate epithelial dysplasia is from up to the spinous layer will also be involved. Okay, so you are able to appreciate the difference in cellular pleomorphism is present, hyperchromatism is present, mitotic figures are seen. Okay, so any changes which we are able to appreciate until your spinous layer two-thirds are involved, then you call it as moderate epithelial dysplasia. And then see the entire more than two-thirds. Okay, almost the entire thickness of epithelium is affected. We can very well appreciate, but still everywhere you find that the basement membrane is intact, does not actually invade it. The moment any cell enters into the connective tissue, it is no longer leukoplakia. You have to categorize into carcinoma. Carcinoma in situ is a dysplasia involving the entire thickness of epithelium. Okay, top to bottom there will be a change. See, this is an example of carcinoma in situ. You can make out how the entire thickness of epithelium is very badly affected. Carcinoma in situ, whether it is to be considered as a pre-malignant or actual malignancy, it is still a big question. Only thing is it has not yet invaded. Okay, so invasion has not happened, so the metastasis chances of metastasis is also less. But you have to remember, anytime the carcinoma in situ will turn into a frank carcinoma. Okay, so here's a book like how the normal epithelium is, and then what all changes we'll be able to appreciate. Hyperkeratosis will be there, and then your acanthosis, lymphocytic infiltration are present. So different stages of leukoplakia we are able to appreciate. Okay, so this is a thin smooth leukoplakia, how it appears in your fissured leukoplakia, and then granular or vericiform. See the surface changes. Okay, see how it is all with the vericiform means like finger-like projections are present. Here we can appreciate the fissures, the pits, deepening, infoldings are all present. And then erythroleukoplakia, you don't have this layer of epithelium at all here. See how atrophic epithelium is present here. So severe dysplasia will be evident, or carcinoma in situ could be there, congested vessels will be there, hyperkeratosis, all these changes will be evident. So what is the basic treatment? Biopsy is required to for a definitive diagnosis, and suppose if it is moderate or severe, then you have to go for complete removal, excision. Okay. Smoking treated, obviously you have to ask the patient to quit smoking, and retinol based therapies are also advocated. So some chemo preventive agents like lycopene could be given to the patients. Next we move on to erythroplakia. Plakia means, as I said before, it is a patch. Erythro means red. So whenever you find a red patch, then you consider it as uh, erythroplakia. See, you can appreciate a red erythematous macular lesion here. Um, and when it was biopsied, it was found to be an early invasive squamous cell carcinoma. Wherever there is redness, always be very careful. Suppose you want to perform a cytology, okay, and some exfoliative cytology. Some red and white lesion is there, always go in for a red lesion, okay. You should never ever take a cytology smear from the white lesion in the areas of whiteness, because you will be able to appreciate only the keratinized cells, right? Because they are all hyperkeratosis present, only those cells will be evident. So whenever you want to perform a cytology for red and white lesion or any red lesion, always try to go in for a areas of take a smear from the areas of redness. And if at all you want to do a biopsy, then you have to include a margin of normal appearing epithelium also. So erythroplakia is predominantly, again, middle-aged people are affected, just like leukoplakia. Flora of the mouth, tongue, soft palate, most common sites of involvement, multiple lesions could be present. They are well demarcated. Erythematous patch will be there, soft velvety texture, asymptomatic. Okay, sometimes it can be found in association with leukoplakia. So histopathologically, we will see that 90% of them are carcinoma in situ or frank carcinoma. Okay, there will not be any keratin production. Atrophic epithelium will be there, and because of this, what happens? The underlying vasculature, increased vascularity is present. That is easy to see through, and thus causing a red appearance. Mm, Chronic inflammatory cells will be evident. So how do we treat them? The treatment of erythroplakia is basically by means of histopathological diagnosis. Your histopathology report will define the course of treatment. So moderate dysplasia or worse means you have to go in for a complete excision. Next we move on to one important pre-malignant condition, which is your oral submucous fibrosis. So you know, it's a very important definition. So you have to memorize this also. Very often asked in your viva. Chronic disease of insidious onset, sometimes preceded by vesicle formation, always associated with juxta-epithelial inflammatory reaction, and there will be fibroelastic changes of the lamina propria with epithelial atrophy and stiffening of the oral mucosa, resulting in trismus and inability to eat. So you can see the patient is unable to open the mouth, and you can see some patches. So the elasticity of the buccal mucosa will be lost. So it is insidious in onset. It means what? It is very slow. You don't even know when it is coming. Some of the prodromal symptoms, like before it comes, some warning signs will be your burning sensation in the mouth whenever you have some spicy food, and sometimes the incidence of blisters have also been noted. Ulcerations or inflammations will be present, and some people have demonstrated excessive salivation, or they are unable to taste. Gustatory sensation is lost. And then focal vascular dilatations will be present, that will be apparent as petechial patches, and then pain in regions where fibrotic bands are developing. So if you want to look into the microscope, you will be able to, initial stages, hyperplastic epithelium will be there, sometimes atrophic epithelium will be there, and juxtaepithelially large number of dilated blood filled capillaries will be present. Okay, congested capillaries will be there. The inflammatory cells will be your lymphocytes, plasma cells, and eosinophils. In the advanced lesion, the oral mucosa will appear blanched, it will be opaque, and fibrotic bands will be present. The lips could be affected, and fibrous bands, you have to palpate the bands. Okay, you have to try to reflect the cheek, and we will be seeing that large number of vertical bands will be present. You will be able to palpate them. Okay, so whenever you are asked to examine a patient for oral submucous fibrosis, you have to look for bands. Sometimes what happens, even the uvula will be shrunken and it will be deviated. So any soft tissue will be affected because of this. Tongue movement will be affected when there will be a lot of stiffening will be there, which will cause difficulty in opening the mouth, inability to chew or perform any function, oral function. So etiology, you know that genetic susceptibility has been attributed, and then your HLA8 and B7DR3, all these things have been associated with it. But areca chewing holds the first place. Okay, so whenever there is a frequent usage of betel liquid, constant irritation, it will cause chronic inflammation, and T cell response is there, and there will be increased cytokines, which will again stimulate everything. It's a vicious cycle which keeps on happening time and again. So there will be increased production in the collagen. The collagen will not degrade. That balance is disturbed. So hence, what happens? There is an increase in the collagen production, which will eventually lead to fibrosis and then submucous fibrosis. So the epithelial changes, there will be increased tendency for keratinizing metaplasia. Subepithelially, atrophic epithelium will be the most common condition seen in your advanced lesions, and subepithelially, you can categorize them as very early, moderately advanced, and advanced, um, based on the subepithelial collagen. Okay? So whether edema is present, physical state of the mucosal collagen, the fibroblastic response, state of the blood vessels, and predominant cell type in the inflammatory exudate. As I told you before, the inflammatory cells will be primarily lymphocytes and plasma cells. Connective tissue, we will be seeing submucosal deposition of avascular collagenous tissue. Okay, and then a variable number of inflammatory cells will be present. You can see this how dense the collagen content is here. Okay, some amount of epithelial inflammation infiltrate is also evident. So the erythrocyte sedimentation ratio will be increased. The patient could be anemic. The eosinophilia would be present. Gamma globulins will be increased. Okay, the iron binding capacity will be increased. Increased serum mucoproteins, mucopolysaccharides. ASO titer has also been shown to increase. And there is a decrease in the lactate dehydrogenase isoenzyme has been reported, and alteration in the copper and zinc ratio has also been reported. So how do we manage them? We have to provide them with a good nutritional support, and also immunomodulatory drugs can be given. So the forceful mouth opening heat therapy, and then local drug delivery like your hyaluronidase, which will help them to release the banding, and then severe cases you can go for surgical management. Thank you.